Hi, this is Jack Downs with an introductory After Effects tutorial. Here we are with After Effects, and maybe this is the first time you've used it. I am no expert in After Effects. I'm learning also. This tutorial is going to involve masks and a bit of animation, a few other odds and ends, how to deal with text a little bit, how to move things around in the composition window. Here is how it may look like when you first open it up. I have a bunch of things listed here you may not. Don't worry about it, just say New Project. And here's our project. Right now is an untitled project. You can see that up here. So let's go ahead and do a save or a save as and give it a name and name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Masks Tutorial. Something like that. It'll put the .aep on afterwards, and we better tell it where to go. And I'm going to put it right there for me. That's fine with me. So I'm going to say save. And we now have our named project. So that's the project. It's going to keep track of all the things we do. We're going to need a composition. Now, many times when you're starting in After Effects, you're just building everything from scratch. You just start as a new composition by clicking on here. We're going to do a composition from footage, but we're not going to click on this button to do it. We're going to drag a bunch of files into our project panel. This is kind of like a files panel. It does more things than that too. It's got effects controls, which you probably would recognize from Premiere. There are some Premiere comparisons and some differences here too. After Effects is kind of the Photoshop of the video world, and it's made for making special effects. As such, you can do a huge number of different things, and there's like 100 ways to do everything, as typical in Adobe software. So I've given you some files for this project, and I have them right here, and there they are. I'm just going to drag them all and drop them into that panel. It's going to have 6 files. They're going to pop in there. Boom, boom, boom. There they are. In this panel here, I could make folders, I could organize them, I could rename them. If I had huge numbers of files, I probably would do that. I would have folders made for different types of files or different purposes of files or so on, keep myself organized. I'm not going to worry about that. Our main video is this video to mask MP4. It's what we're going to mask, create the mask on. So this is the one we're going to start with, and this is the one we're going to make our composition from. And we could go drag and drop it down here, but we can just drag and drop right here in the composition window. And there it goes. Boom. Our first piece of video is in there. Our piece of video is in there. Our main piece of video is in there. And there it is. I can see it is a timeline here. There is some audio associated with it, but unlike Premiere, we don't see audio and video separately here. Instead, we also see a layer here. This is a layer. So a timeline and a layer. You also see there are some different workspaces, but honestly not that many. And frankly, we just generally leave it in default. Unlike Premiere, where moving to different workspaces is very helpful, it isn't really the case in After Effects. We have a number of tabs or tabbed panels over here. One of them happens to be open at the moment is Preview. I can close it, I can open it. Preview would allow me to, this is where I get my controls for playing and so on. You see they're not down here in this case. They're up here. And I could play this piece. You can see it's just people walking around, so on. And a relatively steady shot. Wish it was a little steadier. You'll see why a little later. But it's pretty steady. I can click on it again. I can go back to the beginning. But lots of times we're just running this scrubber ourselves like that. Okay. We have a composition that was made, but we dragged this in here, and this is it. Video to mask is called. I like to rename my compositions because, and by the way, composition is to After Effects what sequence is to Premiere. Okay, so I'm gonna do a rename, and I'm gonna add the word comp to it because I get mixed up sometimes. But what's a comp and what's not? By the way, I use my caps lock to do that. Caps lock is a funny thing in this program. If you have caps lock on when you're trying to do some other stuff, it's gonna kind of stutter and not fully show it. It's kind of like it doesn't refresh the screen. Caps lock causes the screen not to refresh sometimes. I mean, it's fine to use it, just remember to turn it off afterwards. And you should be doing a regular save every once in a while. It's gonna do saves on its own too. Okay, get that out of there, don't want that. So we've got our first piece of video in here. One thing we can see in this timeline is yes, we can see the full video shown, all a little more than 15 seconds. And there's this other timed ruler here, it's called, okay? And the blue end of it over here says work area end. The work area is the area which is going to be turned into your work. So if you started with a much longer video, you would close this up, and I want you to close up the work area to 15 seconds. So now we know this is the area we're going to be working in here. There's a little zoom down here. I can zoom in a little bit by pulling this over here to see seconds, or zoom out. All right, I mean, actually to see frames. Right now I can see seconds, which is fine. And what else can we say here? I don't know. If you don't see windows that we're trying to find later, you can find them under the window menu. And there are a lot of shortcut keys for After Effects. And I think from what I've seen, and by the way, I do owe some thanks to a number of tutorial makers on YouTube, and I'm going to put some information about them in the comments here. Anyway, I think that people use shortcut keys in After Effects a lot, and learning them saves them a lot of time, which we'll maybe do a little bit, but you'll see as we go along, eventually you'd learn the shortcut keys. So here we go. We're going to create our mask. The idea is we're going to create a mask that goes around this area here. And it's going to be a little messy, but we want to separate essentially the sky from everything else. And we're going to mask this whole area. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with the pen tool with our video layer already selected, actually selected like that. I'm going to grab the pen tool, and I'm just going to start clicking. Now, the pen tool this probably is very similar to what you've done, may have done in Photoshop one time or another. It's going to help to zoom in a little bit. I can zoom in with my scroll wheel. If I zoom like that. Now, how do I move over there though? If I use the space bar or click on the hand tool, space bar brings the hand tool up. If I'm not typing anything, that will work out fine. So I'm actually going to start outside. Even though this composition, you would think this is the composition area, it goes way outside. So I'm going to click over here, and it's going to be a little messy. And don't worry about being too perfect. I'm going to cut some of these trees off a little bit too. And I'm going to kind of go around there. And you can get really careful and detailed with it. If you ever screw up some dots, you can do Control-Z's to undo some. Sometimes you'll do a dot and you'll accidentally click on the place where you just were, and it will kind of like end the path, which you may have to do Control-Z to get back to start making it some more. So you can see what I'm doing here, right? I'm going to go up here, then up around this. This is a little detailed. I could zoom in a lot more and get extremely detailed. I'm not that worried about it. This is just for fun, kind of. But, you know, we'll try to do an okay job. And I'm clicking. I'm going to, I just lost the top of that tree. I'm not doing a very good job at all. I'm going to kind of cut that tree off. Okay, get to the building. Oh, that's a lot easier. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm going to use my space bar and my hand tool to move over a little bit more. This can be a little tedious. I'm going to cut off some of this stuff on this building that's sticking up and not worry about it. But I'm going to go around these guys, whatever they are. On Hudson, right? This is Hudson. Oops. I clicked on my same point there, so I'm going to undo a little bit and then redo a little bit. And up and up. You see what I'm doing, right? I should probably have paused this recording. Hold on just a moment. Sorry for the little recording glitch there. Yes, as I was saying, I probably should have just done a bunch of this and then come back and you could see it all done, except you can watch me make these little dots. I go around and you can see I'm not being incredibly good about it. And I am cutting some things off. Like I'm not doing that pole there. And then down to here, I like these nice straight lines. And then down to there. And I'm going to cut that tree off too. Why not? Using the hand tool with the space bar. Come down to there. Down to there. And I'm going right off. And here's something I definitely want to show you. I'm going to zoom back out again using my space bar. I'm going to go outside and outside. Space bar to move over and outside and outside. Boom. Okay. Now, I've messed my magnification up and my window is out of whack and so on. No problem. Here's actually all the magnification levels here. I can just say fit. Okay, so my whole composition is fit. So the result of making a mask is that the stuff that's inside is either included or not included. And that's actually a choice that you have. I'm going to go back to my regular selection tool. By the way, when you have this pen tool, sometimes you'll just accidentally click again and make another dot. Pay attention if you do that and do Control-Z to get rid of it. Because by clicking anywhere in the composition window while this pen tool is selected, you will make things. But if we go back to the regular selection tool, and there are shortcuts for these, that's V, and then you would have avoided having to go click there. Here's my layer, video to mask. And you see every layer has got this little contents you can pull out, open up. And you'll see here, one of the choices is masks. And a mask was created when we did this. We started with the pen tool, the mask was created, and there is the mask. And you see on the pull down for the mask, there's a choice. We can say none, you can essentially turn the mask off. We can say add, which is where it's left. Essentially what's in the mask is added and everything else is removed. Or we could say subtract, which is just the opposite. We want add in this case, but you can see those choices in other choices actually, which you can learn more about. So there we go. We have an addition. Next thing I'm going to do is, I could do this now or later, but with my regular selection tool selected, I can close up my contents of my layer. And with that layer selected, I want to kind of pull all this down a little bit. This is the bottom of the composition window right there. If I wasn't sure, I could zoom out a little bit just to see it like that. And I'm just going to use my down arrow, but I could grab it with my mouse and just start to pull it around too. If I grab it and start to drag, and then I click on Shift, it'll hold it so it just goes one way essentially. I want to keep it stuck in there. I want to bring it down so I get a little bit more space above. I'm going to cut some of the picture out essentially by just dragging it to the edge like that. Okay, good. Now let's put something else in. Let's put another layer of image. In this case, it's going to be a still image. This is still video here. This is a video, but now a still image. I'm going to drag and drop it on the composition window. You see it's not really the right shape or size, and it's on top of new things you drag in will go on top of, but we want it to be behind or underneath. So I'll just grab the layer down here, which is now called mountain, which is the name of the image, which is fine. Now we'll see we're starting to get the effect we want. Yeah, I can with my arrows or just by dragging. I want to pull this down a little further. What I actually like to do is I'm going to grab these handles. I'm going to stretch it out here. I move it over a little bit. I'm going to pull it down a lot. I want to get a lot more emphasis at the height of the mountain. I'm using my arrow now to just go down. But I also want to make sure I want a lot of open blue sky over here on this side for something else I want to do later. But you can see what we're going for, right? I'm going to drag this down. This layer is selected. I always make sure that layer is selected that I want to be working on. And I want to, maybe I'm going to drag it up a little more to accentuate the height even more. Bring it down again into spot, move over just a touch. Something like about that would be nice, I think. I got an issue right over here, I notice, where this layer needs to be moved over to the left a little bit, because I was having some of my blue sky showing through there. Okay, so want to see what things look like? Let's go ahead and fit the window again. I kind of like that. And I can click off my composition window. So now I'm going to see the whole composition like it works, like it looks. I go to my preview, make sure I'm back at the beginning. That's interesting. The very beginning appears not to have anything in it. For some reason, my layers did not start at the very, very beginning. There we go. Now my layers are starting at the beginning. Okay. And I'm going to play it. So people walking along and a giant mountain in the background. They don't even notice it. Okay, good. I'll stop that again, go back to the beginning, roughly like that. Okay. But you see this division between my foreground and background is pretty sharp, and I'd like to make it a little fuzzier to make it blend in a little more. So let's make it look a little more natural. And here's a tool you can use to do that. In my mask, open up my mask. You see my mask has lots of features here. And one of them is mask feather. Mask path, if I could change that. Or expansion is one you might use. Let's say you want to make your mask a little bigger, a little smaller. You can play with that number. I'm going to do mask feather, mask feather. Now, these are two numbers for direction of feather, but they're linked together, I can see right now by the chain it's hooked on. So if I move one, it's going to move the other. And this is by pixels, so actually I don't want to change it very much. But I'm going to be changing it. I'm going to watch the border of that mask. So I'm going to change it. I could just click in there and change the numbers manually. But I'm going to use the slider function. Any feature in any of these different menus that has the blue numbers, I can hover over it and I get a double head arrow. If I click down, I can move it like a slider. So I click down and now I'm going to move it up. It's moving it up slightly. And I want to just go up to maybe, oh, I don't know, no more than 20 probably, maybe even a little less. That's 18. I'm going to click off. You see that blend, a little bit of blend in there. That feathering did. Really improves it. Okay, so I should remember to save my work as I go. And we'll bring that, oh sorry, I'm going to close up this contents. We'll continue in just a moment. Okay, so now to make it even a little more fun, and maybe even a little goofier if you like, I'm going to do some, add some explosions. Why not? I've got a couple explosion things here. I've got a bomb fireball and a grenade fireball. Let's start with the bomb. And I'm just going to drag and drop it on the composition. There it is. It's on the composition. And where is it? I don't see it. Well, the bomb is going to change over time. And there it is. Right now, it's right there. Boom. See it right there? All right. But I don't want it there. I'll make it a little easier to see. I'll move my cursor partway along. I want it to be on top of the building. So that's layer selected. I'm just going to go drag it and just go put it on top of the building. The whole top of the building is on fire. Oh no, what happened? Nobody seems to even notice. So the explosion is going to start here at the beginning and go up, 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 like that. Boom. Okay, over that period of time. So that's going to look good. And I'll add some sound at the same time. I'm going to add the bomb sound. I'm going to go drag and drop it down here. Actually, you know what? I think I want the bomb fireball to begin. I want it to start in about 6 seconds. So we'll start the fireball about there. And we'll have the sound start at the same time, about 6 seconds. And I'm going to shorten the sound up so it ends when the fireball ends. I could drag the fireball longer, but don't really want to. I'm going to go to that point and we'll see what it's going to, we'll play from here. Okay. Ah! Okay, well that was fun. Now, just when this ends, a little ways after, let about, let's say 12 seconds would be a good time. Hold on. And go ahead, stop, stop, stop. Actually, let's back that up so it ends at about 6 seconds, okay? It's gonna end at about 6 seconds, good. Okay, because at about 9 seconds, we'll do a grenade and we'll put it someplace else. Okay, here's my grenade. I'm gonna go and drag it on again, there it is. Where is it? Well, it dropped at the beginning. This is what it's gonna look like. It's right now in the center of the frame, okay? But I wanna drag it over here. I'm gonna drag it down to start at about 9 seconds. And I'll drag my cursor down there so I can see what's going on. Okay, there it is. And I'm going to make it happen like right in here area. So that layer is selected. I'm going to go grab it and yank it down over here like that, coming out of that snowbank, strangely. And I'll give it some sound too. I've got a grenade sound. There it is. And I'm going to go drag it right and drop it right there. It's about the right length, but not quite. So I'm going to have it start at the same time like that. And now let's put our cursor here and see what that looks like. Woo, okay. All right, that's fun. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there. And I'm going to save it right now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, next and last thing is, let's imagine we have some giant text pop up here, but I want it to seem as though it's coming up from behind this mountain, ending up here. Well, what's it going to say and how are we going to make it? It's going to say, wow. Or you say whatever you want. That's what I'm going to type. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab the text tool. I'm just going to start typing. And I'm going to type, wow. Now my text tool, strangely, because of the layer I happen to be on, is right now behind everything. So I'm going to take my text layer and yank it back up to all the way to the top, and there it is. And now I can use my selection tool. I'm going to move it down into place, and I'm going to go back in with my cursor, and I'm going to put an exclamation point. Why not? And what else can I do? Well, when it's selected, I could make it. I could drag to make it bigger if I wish. Make it longer, make it a little bit more extreme like that. I can make a different color. Well, when I'm working with text and I have my cursor in text, I'm working with the text tool. You'll see this whole character area has become up, and I could change the font, the name of the font. We get the font families, boldness or not bold, size, letter spacing, leading, so on and so forth. Color. I could do all those things. I'm going to leave this the way it is. But feel free to play with any of these character features. By the way, there's paragraph features here too. You can play with in any of these you might want to work with. We haven't used this align, actually, but we will in another exercise. That's a commonly used panel. And of course, effects also. We haven't used either, but we will in future tutorials. Okay, so that's fine. There it is. It says, wow. Well, what we want to happen is we're going to set the starting position. At the beginning, I want it to be, I'm going to bring it down. I could just go yank it down. I don't have to move it like that. I want it to be like way down here, maybe something like that, right? It's just invisible underneath that layer. And then that's going to be the starting position. So where in my timeline is that going to happen? That's what I'm constantly doing, is saying where things happen. So I'm going to say just after that grenade goes off is where it's going to start. Maybe right about there, 12 seconds or so. And then at 14 seconds, it's going to have slid up there. So I have my initial position already set. So I'm going to go into my text, and I'm going to animate it. So I'm going to change, I'm going to transform the position. And when I click on this little clock, the stopwatch, it's going to establish a keyframe. When I click on that stopwatch, look what happens over here in the corresponding position where my cursor is. I click on it, and a keyframe was formed. That's a little triangle there. It's essentially saying this is that point in time, right? And now the next point in time is going to be what we set. We'll take our cursor to where we want that to happen. We'll say at 14 seconds. And now I'm going to change the position of the text. I'm going to just do it by dragging with my shift key down. Start to drag and put my shift key down. And it's showing the path of the text. It's going to go pop up right to there. It shows me the path of the text, and another keyframe was formed. So it's going to look like this. It's going to start down here, almost like coming out of that blast. It's going to pop up to there. But we have to make it go behind the mountain. How are we going to do that? More on that in just a minute. Okay, so we set our keyframes, starting 12 seconds here, and then up here, ending like that. And then we'll have 1 second where it just sits there. Good. We know this is interacting with the mountain layer. Okay. So our goal is we need to take the mountain layer. Let's close this up so we can see the wow layer, the text layer. I'm going to move the mountain layer up just below it. Actually, I also need my video to mask main layer to be up at the very top. Okay, good. But we actually want two mountain layers. We want to have one just above and one just below. We don't want this to slip out behind that layer. We want it to slip out someplace else. So I'm going to duplicate my mountain layer. I could do that through a menu, or I could just do Control D. Select my mountain layer, Control D. It's got two mountain layers. I'm going to put one above it and one below it. Okay, good. So now it's like sandwiched. My text is sandwiched between these two layers. And it's this one on top that I'm going to do a mask in. And I'm going to do a mask cutting out this area so that text is going to pop right up. I can be reminded where that text is. If I click on this, it'll show me where it is. Okay, so top mountain layer. Here we go. Select the layer, grab my pen tool, probably zoom in again a little bit, maybe not quite that much. I'm going to slide over here, zoom one click in, slide up like that, sure. And I'm just going to start off here again. I'm going to start clicking and clicking, cutting up, just going along the edge of the mountain. Yeah, trying to be kind of careful, but if I was doing this, I was really worried about I'd zoom way in. You can make it extremely detailed and fine, but not that worried about it. Going, going, going. Of course, you can drag if you're good at this. Some of you will notice that I'm not. You can drag and create handles on any of these dots and make them curvy. I don't really think that kind of detail is required here. I'm just going to go a little further. I've gone further than I need to, really, but I'm going to say that's it. And now I'm just going to go clicking up here, slide down. I'm going to click right out again. I'm going to click right out again, and I'm going to join my path. Boom. Okay, so what do we have here? Right now, we have the reverse of what we want. Okay, we didn't want to remove this stuff. We want to remove this. So this one is going to be, I'm going to go into my mask for that image now, right? Go into the mask. There's the mask. I'm going to select it. Mask 1. Instead of add, I'm going to make it subtract. So I subtracted the area that I masked. Get that? Before, the reason we saw it there momentarily was it had been adding this area and subtracting the rest of the image. The image is on top here, the mountain that's on top. Good. So what happens now, I'm going to click off, regular selection tool, click off, fit this, okay, and I'm going to save it, yes. And here I am in my text, in my layer. These people are walking along, and there comes the wow, coming out there just like that, boom. All right, my other problem is right now, I have moved I need to get my, all my explosion things back up to the top. My grenade. So this idea of moving all these layers around, my sounds don't have to be. And it doesn't matter which order they are. And I think I get my explosions back now. Yes, I do. And then one more explosion there. I'm going backwards. I'm back to the very beginning. Let's go ahead and preview this whole thing all together. Make sure I'm at the very beginning, and here we go. Okay, there's one explosion. The preview sometimes gets a little jerky if there's a lot of stuff going on, but don't worry, the file that we create will be fine. Another explosion right there. Wow, what's going on? Watch out. And then here comes the wow up behind there, and that is the end. It's just going to repeat now. Okay, I'm going to save. All right, that should be complete now. Of course, you can make lots of tweaks. Of course, you can go back to any of those paths and you could tweak them and so on. Not really necessary, probably. You get the idea of adding and subtracting masks, how we can move video elements around just by grabbing them and putting them in different places. We're actually showing part of this original video. Some of it's down below the composition. The idea of like duplicating a layer and using one part of it to mask with. The idea of animating something like text by grabbing any of these features. Any of these features you see a clock next to could be animated. We animated the position on the text, if you recall, with the little clock there and setting keyframes. Only 2 keyframes in this exercise. The next one will have lots more keyframes and lots more animation and not really any masks. All right, there we go. Now you can follow the instructions as far as how you export this. Oh, heck, I could go ahead and do it. So we're going to save it. Make sure it's saved. So you go to Composition. You're going to Add to Render Queue. Okay. This is set for best settings. Sounds good to me. And lossless. This is going to make a giant file. It's the name is here. You could change the name if you like. I am going to change the name actually. And you can change the location here too, but just by clicking on this. My location is good. I'm going to call this final mask example. And say save. It's making, do you see this? It's making an AVI file. It's going to be truly enormous. And then I just click on render. And it's going to run through the entire thing. It's going to render the work area. This is going to take a little while, so I'm not going to play this whole thing. And then you go look at the file and run it in a player, make sure you got what you want, save your project too, so in case you had to come back to it. But the key thing is it makes an enormous file. Now, there's a way, actually there's no way for After Effects to render an MP4. It's a lossy file, a compressed file. There's another program that has to do it. Just for this example now, I would suggest now after you get that AVI file made, go throw it into Premiere and then save out an MP4, and that's what you'll give me. The AVI is going to be way too big to put on Moodle. It's going to be huge, even for this just little tiny piece. But that's the idea, is you like to make a nice big fat full-featured file with all the resolution possible, and then later put it on a timeline in something like Premiere, and then kick out the actual MP4 that you're going to use. So I hope you like that exercise, and more about After Effects later.